I know it's not good to have a disease that I have, but I've coped with it, and I have a family that's very supportive and very caring, and life has been good. You know, right after the Depression, I was just a young man, but I could remember as a kid, we never had much. You know, it was a very simple life, and we all adapted to it very well, and we were all happy. We had a park about block and a half from our house called Roosevelt Park, and there was like a little lake down there. It was more like a swamp, but I'd go down there and catch crayfish for fishing. And Lake Michigan was about a mile and a half from our house. And my dad, no matter how tired he was coming home from work, I'd say, "Dad, would you take me down to the pier and we'll go fishing?" And off we would go. And we'd catch a bunch of lake perch and come home. And I could always remember that. He always took the time to make sure that I got fishing. You know, after we finally all got in the house, we would sit down and listen to the radio. And you can imagine a family sitting around the radio, listening to Fibber McGee and Molly, or The Shadow, things like that. And that's what we did. So you had a lot of time together as a family. And my mother walked in and she said the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor, and she started to cry. You know, here's our country being attacked by somebody, which had never happened before. Because we'd always considered ourselves so safe that nobody could ever hit us. I could remember when the Battle of the Bulge took place, we would always have a picture in the paper showing how much we advanced or retreated each single day, and everybody was glued to it. You know, it was wonderful. And I do remember that very well. Just how everybody came out and were so excited, because it had been a tough war, and it was time to move on with life, you know. My dad said, "Al, if you don't do another thing in your life, you're going to get a college degree." But he said, you know, I never got ahead because I lacked an education. Not that he wasn't a smart man, but he didn't have a degree. And he said, "I don't want to see you make the same mistake." I was a junior and she was a freshman, and we went to a party together. Remember that, Judy? And blind date. It was a blind date, and we were both dressed up in costume, and I really had my eye on Judy, but the whole evening didn't seem to go all that well, and I thought, well, that's probably going to be the end of that, but it wasn't.
We had our picture taken on a bale of hay, and he was here, and I was here, and we were both looking like that. And I got home to my roommates, and I said, I'll never see him again. And that was our first date. I don't know, he chased me till I caught him.
When I got out of college, I graduated at the end of May, and in August we got married. And we've been together for 54 years. So I volunteered for the draft because it was hard to find a job knowing that I was going to be going to the service shortly. And they said, well, yeah, it'll probably be 6 months before you're in. Well, in February, I was in like right away. And then I got shipped over to Germany. And our barracks were German officers' barracks. So we had nice buildings that we stayed in. I was over there for a while, and I decided I'd like to have Judy come over. So we spent a year and a half there, and it was a great experience. Judy and I lived with a German family while we were there. It was Joe Mock and his wife Elsie and 6 kids, and we had one room that we lived in. It was really a bedroom. We shared the bathroom and the kitchen and everything.
They were very appreciative of small things because they didn't have a lot. And it humbled us to be with them. And everybody can handle a little humility. Well, we were very excited to go home and begin our life's journey. But we had absolutely nothing.
And I started out with Johns Manville in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we were probably there for about 3 months. And I got transferred to Minneapolis as a junior salesman to a man called Louis Chappett. And Louis told me one thing. He said, Al, you got to learn 2 things about this business. Things come in truckloads and things come in carloads. And I'll never forget that because that stuck in my mind. Suddenly, Johns Manville closed the flooring division. So they were going to give me this wonderful chance to go to Chicago as a senior salesman in the Industrial Building Products division. And I told Judy, I'm not going. I love it here in Minneapolis. I'll find a different job. This is going to be home. And it might have not have been the smartest thing in the world to do, but I thought it was the right thing to do. We had the kids, and this is where we wanted them to grow up. I was always there. You know, I might be gone one night, but the next day I was going to be home, or 2 days later. And everything just seemed to fall into place. Everybody was just happy. I was doing good. Kids were happy, and life was good. The best part of being a father, I guess, is seeing how the kids have grown up and matured. I've been so happy with Cindy because she was always so caring. You know, she'd always come over here and, Dad, what can I do for you? And she's still the same way. I've got to say the same thing for the boys. They've all been so considerate. I know they're all thinking about me, and they've got their heads screwed on right. They're thinking right, and I guess I'm proud of that.
Probably one of the most important lessons I ever learned from my dad was to be, most importantly, honest. Honest with the people that you deal with, and honest with yourself.
Patient, humble, great sense of humor, loving, caring. You know, everything's achievable.
It was almost like he was always rooting for the underdog. I mean, we were awful. And I think I struck out for a whole season. I mean, he was always encouraging me to do my very best.
Well, you know, I'm kind of like my dad. He was always a hard worker, and I learned that from him. If you're going to have a job, you work hard at it. When I worked for a company, when I was growing up, you stayed with that company. And I see today where people work for somebody, and if they don't like the boss, they say, I'm going to quit. I'll go somewhere else. And they keep going from one job to another to another. And I guess I don't quite understand it. I've seen it happen so many times where good people leave over little things. And I think that's terrible. I blame the companies, but I also blame the people that are working. They should be a little more loyal to the company that they work for. And I think if everybody would pull together a little more, we'd have a little better environment in this country. It isn't always how much money you make, it's how happy you are. And I think that should be your goal. Well, when I worked for Johns Manville back in 1950, I worked in the factory for 4 years. And the plant was loaded with asbestos fibers because that was their business. It's work related, it's mesothelioma, and it's something that I've had to cope with. And it's been tough at times, but you know what? I don't have any bad feelings about anything. I mean, I've been very fortunate. I'm going to be 76 in February, and I look back and I see what happens to young people. Maybe they got hit by a car or got a fatal disease. I've been able to live happily for 75 years, so I don't have a complaint in the world. My life has been good, my family's been good, and Al's happy.